This meeting is being recorded.
All right. 3, 2, and 1. Not a 2 and 1. I don't know how I always get that wrong. All right, we are live. Woohoo! A little clicker. Right? All right. So I just want to welcome you. I know some of you wanted to be here and weren't able to make it, and that's perfectly fine. Today we are, and each week so far, we are doing Grace and Grief, just tips for you. And the idea is to just really bring some supports and tools and just help you to feel like, one, you're not alone. 2, emotions are normal and natural. And 3, talking about them and working through them actually help us to take any of the uncomfortable and the unnatural and the awkward and the heavy out of it. Now, it doesn't take away what's happening. Of course, we can't change what's currently, but we can actually change our perspective about it. And so although we may not be able to change the specific situation or the specific past or the specific future or the consequences or whatever it is that's going on that's creating that grief or whatever went on, because it may be in the past, the more we can allow ourselves to change our perspective on it, the more it can change everything. And I'm not exaggerating. It can really change everything. Now, I can promise you it will likely be with you for the rest of your life, but it's how we're able to work with it, right? And I say that because every experience we've ever had is with us for the rest of our life. Grief, however, when we go through loss, sometimes that can come up and just take your breath away. And it could like kick you right into the bejeebies, right? And that could be from any part, from your diaphragm down. And all of a sudden, you're just doing life, and there it is. And it's just like, where did this come from? But instead, we can say, okay, something's coming up. This needs attention. It's okay. It's normal. It's natural for whatever the situation is going on. It's normal and natural for my body and my being. How do you know? Because it's happening, because your body's going through it. So when we can be in a space of calm about it and, okay, what do I need? What's going on? And if you're not sure, a lot of times when stuff's coming up, I don't know how to handle it right away. Just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm like the guru. I'm just sharing with you what I know. And I have been through decades of grief, from not being wanted as a child. My mother would have argued that point, but the way I was treated, you would argue the other way. From being then abused by my dad, from then I abused myself. I took the way I was treated and the way I believed as a child and took it all through my 20s and 30s, thinking I had no value. And I am still working on it today, and I'm 48. I keep forgetting. I'm like, am I 47 or 48? I had to ask my husband last night, if you can believe that. I'm like, I don't know how old I am. And when we allow ourselves to take a look at what's going on, it allows to shine light where it feels dark. It allows lifting up where it feels heavy. And it allows you to be in a space of, I'm not alone. I don't have to do this alone. And that is why I do this work, right? And so each little step, it's super impactful. You might think it's no big deal. Just watching this is a big step, because that means you're willing to open up, you're willing to expand to new thoughts, new ideas, new conversations, and you deserve it, right? And the information that I'm sharing comes from a long, extensive life of personal experience through not only going through loads of grief, right? My mom had 12 children and only 4 of us lived. I was the second baby and I lived, and I used to wish I never did. I spent my whole life wishing that God had let me go with the other babies to him. Everybody said, oh, God wants another angel. And so that was actually confirmation that I must really be bad, that my mom treating me the way she did, I must have deserved it. And so today what I want to share with you is just a couple points on, we will have grief in our life. It is, all of our emotions are good, every single emotion. There is different aspects of grief, different symptoms of grief. There's different experiences of grief. There's things you wouldn't even think would have grief that do have grief. As I'm starting to age and my body's getting older and pain is taking over in my neck, it changes everything. As my body is starting to get swollen by salt intake, and I don't eat a lot of salt, that's changing everything, right? And there's aspects of needing to grieve what was and what is, and also not even knowing I was going to lose that, right? So many things, but we're not even aware of. And that's just an example personally. So, what I wanted to share with you today, a couple things, and I also wanted to invite you to a couple things as well. When we are going through grief, you want to be 100% mindful of what are your thoughts. What are the thoughts that you're thinking? Are you including any self-blame, any guilt, any shame, any expectations of yourself that are, you might think they're fair, but in a lot of cases, they're off the chain? Meaning, you wouldn't ask that of somebody else. You wouldn't say that to somebody else. You would be appalled if you heard somebody say that to somebody you love. That's where I'd like to look today. Just examining it. Now, examine it like you're looking at a science project. Examine it like, ooh, look at that. Oh, I didn't know I was doing that. Oh, I was doing that, so that created this. Oh, like that. Total science project, all curiosity, and notice if there's any guilt, shame, blame, embarrassment, hiding, lying, anger. Just notice anything that comes up with curiosity. This is new for a lot of people because majority of the time these emotions are considered negative and bad. And I want you instead to think about it scientifically, right? Ooh, interesting. Negative like a battery. Positive like a battery. Which side is the bad side? You know, I ask this to every one of my clients, and every single one of them will say, well, negative. Now, some of them will say, well, I know it's neither one, but I'm drawn to say negative. Do you know why? Because you're subconsciously trained that the negative is bad. But what does the negative do? It helps the flow. So the fact that you're grieving says that you're loving. The fact that you're grieving says you're going through some type of loss. The fact that you're grieving says that you're human. The fact that you're grieving says that you're being vulnerable and connected. And if you find you want to grieve and you can't, it just means that there's something cut off from being vulnerable and being connected. And that's not bad either. It just says that I don't trust this right now. I'm not safe in this right now. Something has made me so frightened, and anxiety is blocking this movement forward. And I learned all of those things through personal development. I learned it through learning about how we are always practicing self-hypnosis. We just don't know it, and we've been taught it's bad, more negative, right? But it's not. It's part of the flow. God created our mind to be this beautiful aspect to create programs and function quickly. But we've not become aware of what are the programs that are in there that we have had going since the ages of 0 to 7 all the way through till now. So I'll give you some examples. A couple of clients that I was working with this week, and including myself. I expected myself to be perfect. Who can relate? I expected that I'd better not make mistakes. I expected that if I did, I expected punishment. And if punishment wasn't there, I punished myself. And you might think, well, that sounds silly. Well, it didn't look like I went out and whipped myself, but it did look like, well, I've got to keep working until it's done. There is no relaxation. There is no play. There is no exercising your body till this is done. Doesn't matter if it takes a week. Ah, that's punishment. Ah, it doesn't matter that I don't really have any good food. Let me eat anything just to make the hungry go away. Or not handling thoughts or feelings that are going on, so let me eat to feel better. All of that is a form of self-punishment and lack of self-care, whichever term you're looking at. So helping yourself to see where that's going on is essential. So number one, examine where you might be practicing any self-blame, where you might be setting up expectations that are not fair, And where might you be punishing yourself in the process or keeping yourself from what you need sometimes, but also that time that will help you regroup and relax and recoup. Because when you're exhausted, and grief at the same time, you might as well just be washed down the drain. It's exhausting. It will steal all of your energy and all of who you are. It will have you feel like there's nothing left because that's actually what you're doing. You're creating this space of draining everything out of you until there's nothing left, until you can't go anymore. And like a cell phone, what happens? Talking, talking, hello? They're gone. They're not there anymore. Now it's going to take 10, 15 minutes for the phone to get back up, get some juice. Only with our being, it could be even worse. You could really make yourself sick. Or now it's going to take you days to get that recuperation back. So really being mindful, where might you be creating that blaming, that shaming? When really what's needed is let's focus on what's causing that grief. Where is that loss? And there might be a part of you that says, nope, not looking at that. Well, what if, and I had a client use this analogy, which I love, what if it feels like it's in a box and you're about to blow that box open? But what if instead you remind yourself, no, it's in the box. I'm going to open the lid. I'm going to take out this piece, close the lid, and we're going to examine that together. However much you feel ready to examine it, and then you can either put it back in the box and we'll work on it later, or, oh, that one feels good. That feels resolved. And when it feels resolved, it lifts away. You don't have to do anything with it. Now, there may be some activities that will help in continuing to practice, right? Like algebra. We need to practice how to do that problem to remember how to do it. And then after that, it becomes automatic programming again. So whatever that looks like. Another example. When you have a scenario that's about to happen and you throw in all the what ifs, and let's say you have somebody who has post-traumatic stress, and I do. I have some clients who do. Everybody can have it. If you have an issue that occurs and then you keep experiencing from it, right? Then there you go. But what happens, guys, is we can recreate that trauma and your body doesn't even know it, except for the fact that now it's escalating in how it feels. For example, if you have had a really hard childhood, and I was talking to a client not today, a couple days ago, and she's had a really bad childhood. It was really hard. And then she had a really hard relationship, very traumatic in both areas. But now she's in a much better space. So brave. She's done so much work. But instead of focusing on the way she will apply these new tools, she got caught up in focusing on it's going to look like this, and 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 just kept replaying all those past experiences and just created this, oh my gosh, space, right? Like even talking about it, I'm getting chills because we could do that to ourselves. And I did it to myself. Good part of my life. And without meaning to, you are re-traumatizing yourself because your subconscious mind is very simple. You tell it something, it believes it's the truth. And when you're giving it these visuals of past experiences, it understands them as you are experiencing that right now, and it needs to protect you. It needs to do whatever it takes. It needs to get away. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's too much. And so that's actually a normal response to a subconscious mind that believes this is really happening. Get the freak out. Yeah. But instead, being able to see, oh, I was telling myself those old stories, projecting them into new stories, and my subconscious mind didn't know better. That's why I'm experiencing this again. Right? So we get to be really mindful. Sometimes that self-blame and that unfair expectations of ourselves and that guilt and those things, we can bring that on again with those thoughts. And for myself, I did it my whole life, right? So it's not a blame or shame or guilt or any of that. It just is, oh, look how I did that. And I'm not a therapist, right? The word that comes to mind is psychosis, right? And meaning for me, when it comes to mind, I was making up all this stuff that wasn't true. Now, there was truth. My mother was using tons of punishment constantly. She was using horrible nouns and descriptors for me. She was using constant punishment to the point of torment, punishing me even for dreams that I would speak out loud because I must have done that at school. Um, had even my little sister monitoring me to catch me so then I can get in more trouble. So I just share that with you to help you see, yes, there was the truth of what was happening. And then all day long, every single day, I would replay, oh God, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if she says this? And what if she says that? And what if I do the wrong thing? And what if I say this? And what if and maybe I should do this? That's what I became a big problem solver. I'm going to go home and I'm going to just do my homework and I'm not going to say anything and I'm not going to bother her and I'm not going to get in trouble. And I was doing that always, my whole life. There was unrelenting. Now, that was a coping technique because it was scary. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen 1 minute to the next. And it's okay to know if you're in a situation, you might not know what's happening, but notice what you're telling yourself. Notice any self-blame. Notice any unfair expectation. Notice any repeating of old wounds. Even if it happened yesterday, even if it happened a minute ago, are you seeing it as it happened a minute ago, or are you replaying it like I should have said that. I should have said this. Oh, that son of a freaking. Ooh, notice that happening? Because in that moment, my subconscious mind is arguing with them all over again and again and again and again and again. And I just want to share with you, as you allow yourself to catch these things, write them down, get them out of your head. Because your subconscious mind stores the information. We bring it up to the conscious mind, and then we move it back and forth, 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 and then you get exhausted with your thinking. Pull it up from the subconscious mind out to the conscious mind onto paper, so your conscious mind, like the whiteboard, can be creative and go, oh, look at how I was doing that. Oof. Well, I need to bring this to next Friday, and I need to talk with Tammy and ask her some questions. Or I need to bring this to the workshop program I'm going to tell you guys about in a minute so you can work on it. Like, think about it like when you're working on a meal. You don't get mad, well, you might, but you don't get mad at yourself because you've got to cook and you've got this recipe and you've got these things. You're just like, ooh, what's going to work? What's going to not? I don't like to cook, so I get mad because I take so long and I mess stuff up all the time. I'm just really not good at it. I forget stuff, and so I try to write it down and I go by the directions, but somehow it doesn't taste the same. So my husband's like, you didn't do it. I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Well, it doesn't taste the same. Well, there you go. So this is your recipe. You're taking this experience of the emotions, of the thoughts, of the experience that happened, of what you might be thinking about it, and giving yourself room to grow and shift and create that experience. And you get to have that. All right, so I hope that was really helpful for you today. And then a couple things that I wanted to share with you. Oh, we have a guest popping in. 1 second. Hello, Narcisse. How are you?
Hi, Tammy. I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I am good, darling.
I
Um, go ahead.
I apologize. I was caught up in some work and I'm just not being able to tune in.
Okay, no worries. There was the first part, I'll just recap a little bit, and then the second piece where I was going to invite you guys to be able to do a program with me if you're interested. But the first part, and by the way, if you have any questions or any areas that you're working on, Shoot me those questions because I always want to answer them, kind of like I did today, just going over some things that I saw during the week that I thought would be helpful to share in some examples today. So we were talking about how it's super important to become aware in regards to grief of if there's any self-blame or any expectations that you have around yourself where you think, oh, it should be like this, or I shouldn't be feeling that, or I should be over this already, or why am I feeling this, or all of the shoulds, no shoulding on yourself, right? But looking at where you might be doing that and where might there be some self-blame or some guilt or shame or embarrassment of releasing whatever's going on. Oftentimes when we're dealing with grief, it's so uncomfortable. And we have these concepts, like, and I use this as an example, we have these concepts that negative emotions are bad. But just like when you look at this battery, what would you say is the bad side, the negative side or the positive side?
Hmm. That's an interesting question there, Tammy. Of course, I would say the negative side, of course.
Right?
Right,
And that proves our point. We've been trained to think that negative is bad.
right.
But when we get a new perspective and go, wait a second, without the negative, what happens?
It won't
The
charge.
battery, yes, it won't charge. It can't work. The same is
Right.
true for us. Our negative emotions actually help us to understand what we're feeling, what we're needing, and what to do with it. Now, another next week, no, yes, next week, yes, I'm arguing with myself. Um, the second Friday of the month, I don't come on here live, which is why I'm thinking, but next week is not the second Friday. It's actually the 7th. So I'll be here and I'm going to be talking about what do the emotions mean? And so when that comes up, what the heck do I do with it? I've
Mhm.
always thought it was negative. I've always been taught, let's avoid it. But as we're looking at these emotions and realizing now, just like the battery, we need the negative. So am I blaming myself or shaming myself or being embarrassed to talk about these things? Do I think that people think I should be over it already? Well, maybe. Some people don't understand how to deal with grief, and some people feel like you should just get over things. And then there's grief that we've carried with us a lifetime, and we're like, well, that happened to me when I was 5. I don't want to talk about it now. So removing any of that self-blame, guilt, shame, embarrassment, any of that, writing it down and looking to see where you might have expectations around that. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
over that already. I need to just get over that. Or expectations of like, I need to be perfect, and anytime I'm not, I'm failing. And then there's grief. So also being able to take a look at where is their grief? Where is that showing up that could be blocking us? And what else is coming up along with that? And so
Mhm.
that was what I was talking about today. Please do watch from the beginning because there's a lot more stuff that now that I've already said it, I'm like, what exactly did I say again?
That's okay. Can you tell me how can I watch it from the beginning? How can I catch the replay?
There's going to be a link that I can share with you. You could send it to me directly or you can put it here in the chat. Just send me your email and I'll send it over to you or your phone number and I can text it over to you, whichever way is good. And I'll send you the replay link.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And then the last thing I was going to go over, and I'll share my screen real quick. I don't think it's sharing. Is it sharing now? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So a lot of these areas, they need to be kind of pulled apart. There can be different things that collapse in on each other, right? And
Mhm.
so what I want to do, I've offered this before. I want to offer it again. Last time it was 12 weeks. This time I thought 14 weeks, I think even better. So we can have a little bit more of an introduction and a little bit more of an exit and a celebration than last time. I didn't want to take away information, so I just added a little bit. And so it's going to be starting on the 25th. And let me share with you the link for it. You can find it here on Eventbrite, Grace in Grief. And I just shared the link in the chat. It's eventbrite.com/e/grace and the whole long thing. But I can always share it if you're interested, so let me know. For those of you who are watching the replay. And you'll be able to see that you can look through everything here, but before you sign up, I want you to be able to ask me any questions. Let me see, it's supposed to, yeah, there it is down here. You'll be able to see how it's set up. You'll also be able to see the various weeks. And ultimately, we're going to create a foundation for you to understand about your emotions, understand about your thinking and how they work together, understand about what grief looks like, a million things you might not even think about, right? And one of the things we were talking about, Narcisse, is like, as I'm getting older, my neck is causing me a lot of pain because the curve that goes like this is now kind of going like this instead. So I can't do a lot of things. And so that's not so much a part of being older for a lot of people, but for me it is. And so that is causing me to lose a lot of movement, a lot of abilities, a lot of fun. Can't do roller coasters, can't do bumper cars, can't do a lot of jumping, can't do a lot of things. And that in itself is grief.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some ideas of grief that you've experienced and maybe something you've never thought as grief now that you're thinking about it?
You know, that's a really I swear you ask like some of the most interesting questions during these sessions. Um, I would say just change, grieving change. Um, and the changes could be anything. They could be relationships. Um, and there's any kind of, it could be a friendship changing. And there's a shift, and I had this conversation with someone recently. There's a shift that's already happened. And before the shift completely happened, there were signs of the shift happening within the friendship. And for some reason, maybe because of busyness or even denial, you don't recognize the shift is happening until the shift has completely happened, right? And is that a bad thing? Oftentimes it's not. It's just that we usually want what we've always had because that's comfortable for us, right? There's contentment there. There is, and where there's that contentment, there's that safe place, right? We trust what we've always known. We trust consistency, right?
Absolutely.
But change, the only constant thing in life is change. And that includes relationships. But when that shift happens, you may, out of a missing, once you're fully aware and present to it, there may be some grieving what was.
Absolutely.
That has to happen in order for you to begin to actually embrace what is.
Yes, 100%. And that's beautiful. And you know, that actually shows us how commonplace grief is. If change can cause grief and change is the only consistent thing, then grief also is consistent. If we allow ourselves to realize that grief is just there to help us go, oh, like you said, I'm missing that. Oh, there's a change there. Oh, do I need something there? Do I need to clean something up there with that person or with myself, or just even give myself more nurturing? Or as that friendship is shifting on, what new friendship can I create? So yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. That's a great analogy.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And so that's what this is about, where we're able to break that down, but over 14 weeks, because when we have had a misunderstanding or just not even a complete understanding of how to understand our emotions, how to understand our thinking, how to understand how grief is affecting us, it can affect our whole life. And so with these sessions, it helps to kind of break down how is it affecting us, in what ways, where are all the aspects of grief that have shown up in my life, how am I perceiving it, what have been the perspectives that I had so far, what's the new perspectives that I can have, how do I practice that, because this is coming back again. So all of that will be taking place, and a lot more, as you can see by the titles here, of the things that will be taken care of. And you can jump in here and you'll be able to see the pricing. Early bird, $777. And then after early bird is $893. And there's also payments if you want to do that. But you'll be able to see where you can take a look at the benefits. You can take a look at how it's going to show up in your life. You'll also be able to see, how is this really going to impact you in a measurable way? And that's why I want to make sure, because we don't want to be willy-nilly about this. And as you're looking through this, I want you to take a look at, if I do this, what's the impact I want? Because that's what we're going to be working toward. We're going to be measuring it, making sure that you're getting it. And then, why would I want to choose this? Why would I want to share it with somebody else? Why would I want to have a friend do it with me? And so you'll be able to read through all of that. But before I don't want you to sign up on here. You can if you want to. I'm not saying don't. But I'd like for you, if you have any questions or create clarity, create your goal. So when you're going into it, you have what you want to do for you. And it's not just I'm getting into this cookie cutter thing, because that's not the case. This is going to be
Right.
individual for each person.
I for one hate cookie cutters.
Me too, because then I'm going through it going, how do I take this and apply it to my life? I don't get it. And then I get frustrated. And then I'm like, did I make a bad choice in doing this? And, then after the fact, I'm kind of annoyed with myself, even though I do use what I can. So yeah, neither. I don't see how that's really effective. Oh, and then the last thing I wanted to share is there is a new program that I'm a part of, and I want to get this program that I'm doing, this one here, and I want to start putting it on a platform and do live courses. Well, in the process of looking into that, I found this company called The Great Discovery, and I'm super stoked about it, because on the platform, there's learning courses, like I'm going to be putting mine on there. There's teaching courses, like I'm going to be teaching. There's other advanced tools that are available, which I'm going to be using for my business. And then it's also a program to where, as I'm helping other people learn about it, I'm earning money, and it helps me basically pay for all of this. So it pays for itself. And so I'm totally stoked about it. So even if I don't make more than just getting this paid for every month, that's cool, because it's got a CRM, it's got AI, it's got support for helping me make pictures of things that I want to do for myself, like AI, avatar, stuff like that. And then, of course, I've got a platform to put my courses on, and I don't have to pay extra for any of this stuff outside of this piece. So I just wanted to share that with you guys who might be interested. And if you are, let me know, because I want to get you in, and I can have you get in and link under my name. And so that even if you get in as like a free learner, it's called, you'll still be connected to me. So if you have any questions, it'll always come my way. And then I can help you learn more about it. So that's something I want to share, because I'm just now learning about it, but it's super interesting. And in any one of these ways, I'm like, you have so much value. So I'm super stoked about it. So I just want to share that as a little side. If it's something you want to learn more about, just let me know and I'll get you the linked information.
Okay.
So that was everything that I wanted to share on that piece. Now I know you kind of missed the beginning, but were there any questions that you had? We're actually over time, so I don't want to keep you, but if you had a question, I want to make sure to address it.
Well, thank you. And I don't want to make this any longer either, and I don't have any questions. I do want to say that one thing that I think was in alignment with what you shared is, for me, one thing I had to face is my self-blame in my grief processes. And that was part of my journey, right? Wondering if there was something I could have done different, feeling guilty for surviving, feeling, and just always saying or telling myself, you probably could have done something different. Maybe you didn't believe enough, maybe your faith wasn't strong enough, or maybe you didn't pray enough, maybe you didn't ask God enough, maybe you didn't walk through it with them long enough, or maybe you didn't try hard enough to understand, maybe you were absent, and in reality none of those things are true.
Yeah. And do you feel how painful those statements are?
I do. Those statements not only hurt my heart or my spirit or my mind, but they also hurt my body.
It hurts
Yes,
me thinking of you being told that. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm super glad. What do you tell yourself now?
I tell myself now that none of those things are true. I loved the best that I could love. I gave all that I had to give in my love. I showed up the best way I knew how to show up. I believed and I prayed the best way that I knew to believe and pray. I was present as much as I could be present. I sacrificed as much as I could sacrifice. And I am supposed to still be here. I still have purpose.
Amen.
I
And
do
so do
no
they.
one any good. I give no service to or honor to those that I've loved and lost by blaming myself for things that were not within my control.
That's so beautiful. And that makes my heart happy tears. Right? Like the other one was like a heartache, and this is like a heart, yay.
From heartache to heart yay. Yay.
Yay! Yes. Oh, that's
Yes.
so beautiful. And to watch that is so beautiful. And that's why I want to do this program. Because when I watch people go through that, like what you're talking about, it's a life-changing experience. And it's going to be carried through your life as you practice it in every way. And it's a gift that you're pouring out into others, right? Like I like to think of us like a well that God's pouring into us so much that we are now full and it's overflowing out into others. And it's our job to make sure we keep letting the, which is great because if we keep making sure we let the overflow in, we're practicing self-care and self-love. And then it overflows and we're helping others to do the same. And I just thank you so much for sharing your story and being
Thank you for
vulnerable.
allowing me.
Yeah, for sure. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm just so proud of you.
Likewise, I am equally proud of you.
Thank you, darling. Well, you take care of you, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday. And if you're interested in the program, just let me know. And if you want to share it out, let me know. I'll get you the link for that as well.
I've
Oh,
already,
I think
I've
I put it
already,
in the chat already. Yeah.
I've already shared it.
Oh, great. Yay. Thank you.
You're
If there's
so
anybody
welcome.
you want me to speak to, or like for some folks, they don't feel comfortable speaking to someone else on a new topic unless they have a buddy. So I also do that. So I want
Okay.
people, when I'm talking to them, feel as comfortable and safe as possible.
Okay.
Yeah. All right,
Awesome
darling. Well,
sauce.
you have a great weekend and consider yourself hugged. A big squishy hug to you and anyone who watches this replay.
Thank you so much, and I am extending a hug to you as well. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
weekend.
You too, darling. Bye for now.
Bye bye.